Hey guys, Logan here, and this week we are back onto casting the cylinder head. And if you're up to date, this is our latest attempt at casting our cylinder head, and there was a few defects which need to be rectified. So instead of just trying again and hoping it worked, I have sought professional help. And no, not for my motorcycle addiction. That is another problem which I'm not willing to deal with. So I went to the casting shop in town, and yeah, they gave me a whole bunch of insights into my process and some of the things I was using that definitely need some work. So the first problem on the list was how I was measuring my aluminium temperature. So I had a thermocouple probe, which is essentially touching the bottom of my crucible, and that was taking the reading from there. Now apparently that's probably not that accurate. I should actually have some sort of steel probe that goes into the molten aluminium, and also even having the aluminium agitated so the heat is evenly dispersed, and taking my reading then, and that'll give me the best chance at pouring it at the correct temperature. And so to rectify this issue, I have bought myself a different type of probe which goes onto my thermocouple meter, and yeah, so hopefully this should work and give us some accurate temperature readings. On to the second issue, which was a little bit of shrinkage I had in sort of this area of the head, and what I've done to fix that is I have made the feeders all much bigger, but I had no room for the aluminium to be in those feeders. So that's our old crucible, and now we have a nice big new crucible which should hold another 800 mil, I would imagine, of molten aluminium. So that'll all be in the feeders to prevent shrinkage. Because this new crucible is a lot bigger, I'll have to modify my picker-upper tool for doing the pouring, and also change a few things with the furnace so it actually fits. The third issue which I had was porosity, and there was actually two different types of porosity I was having. So the first one is a relatively simple fix, and that was gas porosity caused by hydrogen in the molten aluminium. So essentially what I was doing wrong is I was degassing the aluminium correctly, but then I put the lid back on the furnace and continued to bring it up to the temp I wanted to pour at, making most of that degassing I just done completely pointless. So essentially I was told you want to degas it when it's pretty much up to temp, and then pour it straight away. And the second type of porosity I was having is porosity from contaminants and things like that. So essentially bits of the investment were breaking off and staying in the mold leaves a hole. So how I'm going to fix that, the first one is prevention. So essentially every surface inside and out of my cylinder head, every sharp corner or sharp edge, when you burn the mold out, they can break off, and then that's in your mold. So I had to do a hell of a lot of CAD to essentially remove every sharp edge, and I've almost finished it. It's been taking freaking forever, but yeah, slowly getting there, and so that should hopefully prevent most of the little bits breaking off and going into the mold. And the second thing I can do, which I was just putting a little bit of compressed air through the mold after it had been burnt out to remove sort of any dust and stuff, but essentially if I want to remove anything that has actually broken off, I need to be able to lift the mold up. So I probably got to let it cool down because my gloves aren't that fireproof, and you've got to have it upside down, and then you're pumping air through it, agitating it, moving it around, so any bits that are in here come out the feeders at the top, and then you have a nice empty clean mold ready to pour. And the final issue I had was relating to the heat treatment, and that was when I had done the quench, and essentially the cam chain gallery has distorted and caved in a little bit. So that was an easy enough fix. I simply went through the CAD, put a whole bunch of little supports which go further into a solid area of the cylinder head to support this, and I can machine them out afterwards. So a 3D printer is fast away printing another cylinder head because I messed up with this one and it is not usable, which kind of sucks. I changed a few things and then didn't double check some tolerances, and yeah, and then also while it was printing I accidentally disturbed it, and it's not even completely square all the way up. So yep, I'm a knob. And there we go, that's the latest jigsaw puzzle all off a 3D printer. So now I've just got a bit of super gluing ahead of me, and yeah, as you can see, we have made all of the feeders much bigger volume, and that should definitely combat that shrinkage problem that we were having. Whew. Yep, that's that all glued together with this super glue, which definitely packs a punch. It is good in ventilated areas. No, not good in it's strong. Anyway, that's got to go in there. I need to mix up some of that I'm not high, I promise. I'm just really tired. It's late at night. I need to mix up some investment and then, yeah, get that all burnt out in the kiln, do the heat cycle, blah, blah, blah. And then while that's burning out, I have to finish modifying my crucible picker-upper tool for the bigger crucible, for the more aluminium, for the bigger feeders, to stop the shrinkage, to make me happy. So I was thinking I would tell you a story while I'm measuring out this last lot of investment. And so my two latest boxes of investment, my partner and mother-in-law picked them up from my brother's house in Australia, and they brought them back for me. And at the customs border, security was like, yeah, we better, you know, check these in case it's a whole bunch of cocaine. And they swabbed one box on the outside, it was fine. They swabbed the next box and it came up positive for cocaine, which is pretty impressive. Obviously it's not cocaine. They opened the box, checked the contents, and there was no drugs, which is very good. But boy oh boy were they sweating bullets, which is kind of funny and just makes me very appreciative of what my family is willing to do for me for doing all these ridiculous plans that I have. So yeah, that was story time. To give you an idea of how popular And there we go, that is all cleaned up, and as you can see, look at all that crap that we got out of the bottom or the inside of the mould. So it was really good. It's actually looking not too bad. There's a few like small cracks and stuff, I can see that there, but that's not going to affect the quality of casting too much. So now I'm going to chuck it back in the kiln, get it preheating, and then yeah, we should be ready to cast in hopefully a few hours. Well, that was a pretty hectic morning, but I've got everything, I think, ready to go. I have my crucible grabbing tool, the new rings made, and that seems to be working most of the time. And yeah, there's still a few more things I need to tinker around with, but I can do that while this is heating up. Here we go. That is hot. That made a lot of steam. Okay, let's put the extractor on, and I suppose we just gotta do it again, I suppose, and not chicken out. Maybe I want to do it from further away. Well, there we go. That actually worked rather well. So I think in the future, I'll just slam it on the ground upside down like a caveman instead of trying to dig it out, because that was relatively easy. It just soaked in water, jiggled it up and down. You know, it still took probably 5-10 minutes, but effort was pretty easy. Now I'll start digging it out. Here is our latest casting, and I'll start with the positives. There's no holes in the cam chain gallery, which is really good. There's no holes in the water jacket, also really good. the head gasket surface is miles better than the casting on the previous attempt. There's a couple small imperfections, but that's a piece of piss to weld up with the welder before the heat treat and machining. But negatives, there's a couple random irregularities which I can fix, but also the casting starts off pretty good at the bottom and it slowly sort of gets worse as it gets to the top, because I'm pretty sure I wasted too much time when I was doing the casting when I had the mold out, and when I had the lid off the furnace doing the degassing, I lost too much temperature. Even though I thought I didn't, I was watching the temperature thing and it said it was all mint and it was still going up, but that was at the bottom of the crucible. The temperature, the top surface of the aluminium was definitely going down as I was degassing and doing all that stuff. As you can see, the furnace is ticking away, and the last thing, which was my picker-upper tool, I have added a nice long bar onto it to give me a lot more leverage so I can do this pour more controlled, because I had to interrupt the pour on the previous one, which is not good. You want one continuous pour and yeah, no sort of extra air entrapment or any defects getting in because you're having to stop and then start again. Really don't know how to explain it, but there's something about casting where it's like everything's smooth sailing until a certain point, and then you're like, oh yeah, I'm getting close to casting temperature, and then it's like you just go from like having a nap to sprinting. Dusty. Well, here we are. I have had 3 attempts since the last video at casting full size, and all 3 have had something or other wrong with them. The first one, this one here, I have a couple holes in it and the surface finish wasn't particularly great. There's a big defect here, and there's a defect in here, but overall that one's not too bad. The water jacket's pretty much formed. Now I thought, okay, I'm pretty close, I'll have one more casting. I did this attempt here, haven't even unattached all the risers and gating system, because you can probably see that plain as day. It has a whole bunch of random porosity on it, which was really frustrating because I've never even had that excessive porosity before. Like, I've had the odd bits here and there, and that was like there was some sort of contaminant in the crucible or something, or in the mold. So that was pretty crushing, because the rest of it, apart from that porosity, was pretty good, would have been usable. And then the last attempt, which I just done last weekend, was not too bad, similar quality to this, but it has some random defects in it which are going to be harder to fix, and there's a defect in the water jacket as well, so that's possibly not completely usable. And so I sort of got disheartened and didn't even dig it out. So I've decided this cylinder head is going to be the test subject, and we're going to actually try to get this thing usable, because essentially I've talked to a couple of experts who've done this sort of stuff before, and they said I should really try get one of them running and tested, you know, have it on a dyno or whatever, and see what sort of power it makes, if it works, what the problems are, and then you go back to the drawing board and fix those problems. And so in theory, at the moment, the only 2 problems that are definitely going to be problems that I can see is we have a hole and a defect here which needs welding up, and then we have another one where the spark plug hole is a small hole which needs welding up. To be honest, we could even just use some RTV or something, and that would probably stop an oil leak through there. Other than that, there's, you know, a tiny bit of shrinkage in a couple spots. The head gasket surface is actually the best out of all of them. There's a couple defects here which I'll probably weld up as well. So yeah, what I'm going to be doing with this is get the welder out. I'm going to practice welding on a couple of these which are definitely not usable. Once I've got the heat and sort of everything down, I'm going to touch up these few imperfections on this head, and then yeah, then it'll be the heat treat, and then it'll be machining. So there's a few things to do, but overall this head should hopefully work. So yeah, that pretty much sums up this video. Yeah, it was definitely disappointing to have continuous failures one after the other, but it's just, yeah, I got some motivation from friends again, so they're like, no, don't give up. So I'm not going to give up. I'm going to continue because I really do want to cast it myself. I've been talking to the foundry, and I could in theory just, you know, get them to do it, but I got to pay them money, and then I can't say I made it myself, which I really want to do. On that note, this has been Logan from the Motorcycle Forge. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll catch you next time.